I mean, say what you want, I don't give a shit. She was a good girl. I saw goodness in her, and what she did for me that day was giving me the most expensive thing that she had. So, you try to knock that, you know what I mean? Like, so if you ever hear me say hooker, it's not with no disdain or disrespect, because there are so many hookers that I love and that I have learned from, and don't you think I'm talking bad about them or what they do for a living or none of that shit, because I guarantee you I could pick at you just as much and make you feel even worse than that girl, because at least she's not trying to lie about what destroys her. She runs to it. So, you know, you're still in the closet trying to, you know, say you're not eating yourself to death, but you're 400 pounds overweight. Who's got the worst addiction there? You know what I mean? I've done meth. I've never really been hooked on heroin, but I've done it. I've done every drug known to man that I know about, except for maybe like some of the psychedelics like DMT and there's like one other, I don't know. Anyway, never ever have I lost the ability to understand that I am in a inebriated, hallucinogenic state, and what I am seeing is basically being chemically induced. Even if I'm having fun, even if it's crazy out there, I could still play that role, but I knew for a fact in my heart, without a doubt, that what I was seeing was not really there, and I had control over my thoughts the whole time. Even though my inhibitions are lowered and whatever, God never let me get lost. He never let me get lost. Not in the dope, not in anything. I got real bad off on dope, on speed dope. You know why? Because I wanted to die. And I didn't want to think about doing it. So I just did whatever was bad for me. If that was dumb, irresponsible, or harmful, that's what I was looking for. That's what I wanted. Whatever would end me quicker. You know? What else do you do? What else do you do? And nobody knows what to tell you. Actually, that's not true. I had one friend that knew the right thing to say. And right at the moment, it didn't feel like it. And then my mom gave me some good advice about how to deal with Jenna. But between those two things that I was told, it changed my perspective on things. And it didn't happen right away. It didn't happen right away. I had to think about it, meditate on it, and figure out for myself that, yeah, they're right. That is the only option. And they probably know because they've been through it and they know what this feels like. And in fact, they had. You know, one thing I was told was a good friend of mine named Brandon Barber, who had gone through a nasty divorce and had really kind of gone through the exact same patterns. In fact, there's at least half a dozen men my age or a little older that went through the exact same scenario. Old lady left after years of marriage and kids. I mean, just screwed everything up and selfishly bolted off and didn't give a shit about nobody else or nothing else or the consequences, because it was entire families, including mom and dad and sisters and brothers and everything in my family and her family that was ripped apart. And then her screwed up family acted like I didn't even exist, like we was never family. After 12 years, I've gotten called once by Jeremy and I didn't even answer it. Why would I? Come on, man. Y'all all backed her up and didn't say shit when y'all know that I'm a good man. Even if I had been so guilty as she said, and you know what? She never even accused me of anything that I actually did, except for the one I told her about. The other couple times that it happened, she has no clue of. Maybe she does. Hell, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I hope she did know about it. Point is that nobody, absolutely nobody, listened to the truth or were fair and honest in the whole thing and said, now wait a minute, Jenna. I know for a fact you've been fucking RJ for at least 2 years now. And you're running around calling my brother, because that's what he is now. He's been my brother for 12 years now. You're calling him a lying, drug-dealing, wife-beating piece of shit. And I want to know more about this. How can you make those claims when I've never seen it in his life? Until you started talking about it, there was never an issue, Ben. Nobody gave a shit about your drug addiction until you were broke, had no money, and nothing. Because then you had to rely on everybody else and you were their problem. That's when it became an issue. When the money dried up. And you know what? I did that shit on purpose. Because I'd be damned if I was going to give Jenna another dime. For all the work and money I put into her, and she just... I hope nobody does. You get to that point in a relationship, man, you should have been gone a long time ago, but don't you do nothing else for them, they don't deserve it. You make them fight for everything they got. Just like I had to do. And you know what? I never put myself in battle formation against her. Never. Corbin's really overweight. If he doesn't do something, he'll be morbidly obese in the next year or two. Because he eats to comfort himself. I do too. I just have control of it. You know, like I'm a drug addict. If I start getting fat, I guarantee you I'm going to go right to the speed dope house. I'm going to get me some drugs and some needles and I'll lose that weight quick. Because I ain't going to be like the rest of my mom's family. Unable to function because I'm so fat I can't do nothing. Fuck that. I'd rather be a drug addict. Honestly. I've watched what my mom goes through. That shit's horrible. Horrible. To be morbidly obese like that is a curse on top of a curse upon death, upon a wish to be dead, but you can't be dead because you have a family to take care of type of curse. Like, I've watched her go through hell every day of her life. Really. And she's done it without complaining most of the time. Maybe she does and I don't hear it. You know, whatever. She did it. And she'd do it again. That's why I don't hate my mom. That's why I love her. And that simple truth right there is what gave me the right perspective to forgive my mom. Because, you know what? Her parents were not near as good as mine were. My parents strived to be better than their parents. And what else can you ask for? What else can you ask for? With the limited information and the bullshit that we've been fed since this country began. And some of our founding fathers warned us clearly, openly, right there in front of everybody, right up onto JFK, and nobody did a fucking thing about it because you're all a bunch of pussies. You're a bunch of limp... I'm not going to go there, but you know exactly how I feel about it, and if you don't like it, guess what? You ain't going to do shit about it. So what? Dumbass. Jeez almighty. I mean, come on, man. Use some common sense. It's really not that hard to figure everything out. It's so simple and right up in front of your face that you have basically made yourself so stupid that you can't figure truth from a lie anymore. And they hand you shit and you call it caviar. That's what you call the American dream? That's what you call being an adult, grown up, like spiritual, religious? Get out of my face with that, man. You ain't got no right to even open your mouth and begin to speak of it. You don't even know who, what, when, why, where, how, or how to lead people there. Jesus wasn't blind. Did he seem blind when he was here? Walking around in his blind faith, like just hoping God was there? Praying to God, asking him for something? No. When he prayed to God, he was saying, this is what you want me to do, right? He was asking permission to heal somebody because he already had an intent. He just wanted to make sure it was in line with his Father's will. Because that's what matters the most. You can do things outside of God's will that may not affect anybody to, like a large degree or whatever. But sometimes you can make the smallest actions. Use the wrong tone with somebody on a bad day and you can kill them. Ultimately, that could set a chain reaction that makes somebody commit suicide a couple days later. You know what I did today? I started off with a selfish intent, you know, because I'm like, I'm not used to not having a girlfriend, and it's almost Valentine's Day. My birthday's like in 36 hours, and I got no woman. Because the woman I was with has got a pretty wide circle, you know what I mean? The faker you are, the wider your circle has to be. The more real you are, the smaller you bring that sucker in, because you already know what's out there in that circle, right? So this is what they do to maintain their facade, and now it's become a collective. And this collective here in Amarillo is destroying men left and right, wrecking homes left and right, prostitution left and right, and they play like it's a whole different person. Like, how would you say that about me? I would never, ever do that. And then, you know, later that night, she's like, yeah, it's $150 an hour, fool, okay? Don't play with me. That's my money. Come on. You ain't fooling nobody. You just bitched so much and so violently that everybody just let you have your way, because that was more peaceful. That seemed less destructive at the time, to just let you your life off and your kids off and everything else off because you chose to. Nobody did that to you. You chose to, because you weren't brave enough to search for the answers. Miss, I'm going to eat the fruit and talk to the snake and all that shit. Where's that kind of courageous behavior at? That was a pioneer. Not a Simon Says, you know what I mean? You ain't doing nothing except for what you're told to do, and you don't even know who's telling you or why. And if you do know who's telling you, you probably think it's God. And I'm not going to argue. It is your God. You got that right. You ever stop to think, am I serving the right God? Am I positive that I am smart enough, having gone through all the horse shit that I went through and being dumb enough to stay in it as long as I did? Am I really smart enough? Have I been given the right tools and information to make any kind of decision based on who God is? And where He's at, and how they found Him, and how they know it's Him? God doesn't try to hide anything. He will answer any question that you have for Him with no issues about it. He's not going to make you fight for it. He's not going to, you know, there are things and situations that He puts us through that suck, because He knows it'll make us stronger. That's what He needs us to be. That's what He desires for us to be. And ultimately, we are working towards His plan. If you're not, you're wicked, and you're killing yourself anyway. So, sayonara. You're done. You're over. You're dead already. You just don't know it. So, like, I don't understand how any intelligent human being could take this, with the information being available, and now it's so more readily available with the internet, and how fast everything has gotten with technology, and, you know, the massive storage places of information and data, and, you know, cool things, and artificial intelligence, and, like, I love it all. I think it's great, because it has brought on what we needed, and the information that was necessary, and the communication that was necessary to bring this world up to something better. This world's not going down, it is going to ascend, okay? And heaven and earth are going to meet, and then heaven will be on earth for at least 1,000 years. That's the New Jerusalem. This earth ain't going nowhere. It's not getting destroyed. Shit is going to hit the fan to some degree, but I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as people feel like it's going to be. I think it's going to be pretty up in your face. This is what the wicked get, because it's what you chose. It's what you wanted, right? And just now, because it's happening, does not mean you can back out of it now and get no consequences, because I gave you that option, but you didn't choose it. You decided to rebel against the only law that really matters, is honor your God. Put no other gods before Him, because they can't do anything for you except for what gift God has given them, because angels are different. They don't have that creative ability like a human does. They're not made in his likeness. They are made in something kind of like him, but they are different. They are different. They're in a different realm. They're made for operating in a different realm. You know, they're made for what angels do. We were made to be like God. Period. Out of all his creations. And maybe there's vast galaxies somewhere else that have other humans, or earlier on, you know, I don't really care. The fact of the matter is that now they can prove that it has been billions of years. They can measure how quickly the universe is moving, expanding outward. So the Big Bang Theory is actually a thing. It's just a controlled bang, and God is in control of every molecule of it, lovingly guiding everything to a determined outcome that he has already set before we could even fathom. It was all planned out. It's all happening the way God knew it would happen. And once he set it in motion, he just let it go. Because mostly every piece that has been created is a piece of him, so that he can experience everything, because he's God. That's what he wanted to do. That's why he did it in the beginning. Was for himself, to occupy himself, to entertain himself. What else is God going to do? Just sit up there forever, just judge people, just, you know, like, does that really sound like something you would do if you were God? You'd just be boring and rude and, you know, this big bully asshole up here that just punishes people all the time? That doesn't really sound like fun to me, unless God's a narcissist. Then it'd probably be right up his alley. Who really knows? Nobody's been there. You don't know. I don't know. We just know what's in the Bible. The Bible that was pieced together by a bunch of assholes trying to keep us from the truth. So, I mean, there is that. There is that. And you can believe every word in it if you want. There's nothing bad in there, except for the lies. And really, they used the truth and exaggerated things and changed some names so that the devil looked evil, when actually it came from man. We created that, not the devil, not Satan. Okay, the devil and Satan, first of all, are titles. They're like a rank or a type or a class of angel. Okay, it's not even a demon. The devil is someone, an angel, a divine entity, no matter what it is, or a cherub or a Michael or Gabriel or whatever, whoever God sends to do this dark task that has to be done, because that's why I created angels. They do all of the supernatural things for me. They are my hands, just like humans are my hands in that, you know what I mean? Like angels are the hands in their realm. And they have enemies too, right? Like everything's got a balance, an opposite, all right? A yin and a yang. It's karma, okay? It has to be that way, or we could not exist. We would not have an identity if we had no enemy. How would we know who we are? You know, how would you define yourself if you had nothing to stand for and everything was just hunky-dory and there was never no issues and everything was perfect? How would you ever gain an identity on anything? You know what I mean? And like the point is to gain your true identity, which is God. Argue that all you want, but that's what God said. Argue with him. I'm just a messenger, okay? Everything that I know was given to me by somebody smarter and wiser than me. And I don't go try and find stupid people to learn from. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You know, you want to put yourself in a position to learn all that you can. I love learning. If you don't like learning, you're a done case. Like old said Guru says, man, you're a done case. That's like water not agreeing with you. If water doesn't agree with you and like you're allergic to water, you're not going to live long. You're a done case. You know, you might as well just live like you're dying and do whatever it is you want to do, because, sorry man, but God did not bless you with a good life. You're screwed. And that's kind of how it is with some other things in life. If you want to buck what God has put in order, you're a done case. Who do you think you are? You are not God Most High. You are a creation, but you are also creator. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has that. That's something that's in this dimension. That's what makes us hated or loved. Right? Worshipped. Crucified. Come on now. You know, who out there been crucified? Huh? Who out there had your name dragged to the mud until you were worth nothing? And you had to start from a nobody. A nobody that nobody even wanted to know by that time. You know, you were an outcast. You were you were exposed to be exactly what your attacker was. You remember in the very beginning, and Eve said, it was the snake. It was the snake. The snake told me, right? So I ate it. You know, I know you're God and all, but he's a snake. Look, he's a snake. It resembles a penis, and you know what I mean? He rubbed me in the right way, or whatever it was that it says in the Tanakh that she was seduced into believing. And then she seduced Adam into taking the fruit. So there was some sort of sexual, and that is not no exaggeration. That is the verb, the word that's used. It is a sexual word. Seduced. Tempted her with something new. She wanted to know something. And that's fine. Adam would have never done it. We'd have never got to experience real humanity, and we'd all be on a perfect little utopia, and we would not have really gained anything from this existence except some stack of years and a whole bunch of uninteresting living. Like, it would just be the same all the time. I believe in past lives now. I don't just believe it, I know it's true. It makes sense. I'm an eternal being. What am I going to do forever? You know, like, after I leave here, do I just get to float around and, like, do what I want and mess with people? Or is, like, God going to make me do something that I don't want to do? Or, like, what's he got planned for me? Do I have to do what he says? Like, is true freedom and, like, winning the race, the prize at the end of this race, it had better be valuable. It had better be something so freaking extraordinary, God, that it just blows my mind, even in a ascended, you know, just... It better be that good, or I might go with the people that want to be away from God, for real. It's like that with me now. Like, I love God, I do. And right now in my life, I trust him. I know that he's right. I mean, I feel like he's right. You know, it's just like I'm searching for some things. I just don't know exactly what God has said yet. I know what I was told, but I also know that it wasn't all true. They twisted things to make it sound some sort of way, to make us all feel some sort of way, so that we would feel guilty all the time. I mean, basically, everybody in the world is under a narcissistic thumb. That's why this is such an important thing. It is the eternal battle of light and dark. But the thing about light is it just takes a little bitty bit of light in a really dark room, and almost all of the darkness, just with a candle flame, is almost expelled. Even if it's just a little light, if there's a little light there, there cannot be darkness. That does not apply to a person's soul. Okay? The light and dark, that originally it was together. God separated the light and the darkness. Called one light and the other dark. You know, or one day and one night. But in our soul, which came from the same waters that everything else was made from, okay, had that same properties, that same expanding explosion Big Bang theory is happening in a human, and like if you thought about it or you watched it and fast forward, it would look like they were exploding like a piece of popcorn. Very similar to the way everything else works, because it's all sacred geometry. It's all a mathematical equation, because God is just that kick-ass with math. He loves numbers, and they rule everything. Numbers rule everything, not because they're numbers and they rule, but because God made it that way so that it would have order. I've been told that once you are, fully capable of taking yourself to different dimensions, which we are capable of and are meant to, it looks like chaos to someone who's never been there. Because everything that happened then and everything that happened now and everything that will happen are all happening right now. So it kind of looks like a train wreck, I would imagine. I only know what's been described to me, and I have not been granted the passage in, just like freely roaming around the spirit realm. God does not let me do that for whatever reason. I don't know. He limits what I go and what I see, what I remember. Like, it makes me so angry. Like, I'll wake up, I'm like, I know I just had like the most intense dream. And sometimes she was super gorgeous and I can't remember none of it. Like, and usually if I have a real intense dream, it'll end with me, like with the beautiful woman, or, like the fairy tale type of, because that's my desire. That's kind of like my dream. That's my fairy tale, is save the world and have my twin flame, my soulmate, my rib, not Jenna, my rib, the woman that was made from me, okay? She was made from me, and she's here on this earth, alive and breathing. She is here. God put her here. We came here at the same time, chose to come here at the same time so that we could raise the, you know what I mean? And I feel like it was some sort of bet. Not necessarily, that's not why we did it, but it was part of it. I bet that if you separate us and you don't intentionally bring us together, I could still find you. I could still love you, and I still know that you're my soulmate. It wasn't Jenna. That much I know. She was a soulmate. I'll give her that. But let no man divide asunder what God has joined together, right? So God said it right there. It's written down, recorded. It's law. God spoke it, so it has to be true, because we already know everything else He speaks happens. So let no man divide asunder what God has joined together. Right? Isn't that how it goes? I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it goes. Don't let anybody separate what God's brought together. So who are you to think that you can separate something that God put together? Or me, or her, or anybody. It was never supposed to be forever. It was never supposed to be anything but having the right DNA to make the children that God intended on making. That's why it had to happen. Because God's a selfish God, and He has the right to be. He made all this. It's His to do what He wants. Like, I'm His ant farm. I'm an ant in His ant farm. I'm just an ant that He loves very much. He watches very closely, like you move closer to God, He moves closer to you. Like, it is performance based. You can't just believe and never get off your ass and do anything good for God. You can sit there and believe all you want, but like, I don't know who says this, but I love it. He's like, if you came up on some hungry, starving, homeless people, and you said, brother, be clothed in the name of Jesus, and be full, in the name of God, but you don't give him a coat or a meal, you're just a pompous ass that needs to keep his mouth shut and not proclaim anything for God. Because your works are dead and you have no faith. And what you believe is a joke. God called us to be the miracle, to supply the needs One thing my mom taught me, I'll love her forever because of it. When she told me one day, son, if you see a need, fill it. That stuck with me. That was purpose. That was my purpose. I kind of took it to an extreme. You know, it didn't matter what it needed. If it called for my life, I would do it. I offered my life several times. I tried to give my life over to the devil, to the enemy, to save all these girls that I thought were so innocent. And, you know, like, yeah, they got it bad. I'll wager you everything that I've ever earned, every dollar that I've ever made, that every single woman that is stuck in some sort of prostitution, whether it's just like, that's how you have to survive, is you play this circle of 3 or 4 guys, and, you know, at some point, all the 3 or 4 guys know it, and what are they going to do? Because they're broken too. Like, there's only so many people in that circle, and if you're an addict, you don't really go outside that circle because you're not really accepted, and everybody wants to frown on you for it in this town and say that you're bad and evil, and, oh, you're just a liar, a thief, a cheat, an untrustworthy, unfaithful, no good for nothing, low down, dirty, rotten addict. But it's, you know, it's okay, because we're going to put you in rehab, right? That's what I think about your rehab. Your rehab's worse than the drugs. It's fake. It is just for show, and it does not do anything but make a person think about getting high. I've been to rehab. I graduated a 30-day intensive program, and then I did the aftercare, and I stayed until Miriam and me decided it was a good idea to leave and move in together. 2 freshly, you know, rehabbed addicts, horny as hell. What's the first thing we do? Have a barbecue, baby. Let's get a bottle of Crown, Apple Crown. And it was great. It was wonderful. The sex was amazing that night. She was a totally different person. Smelled different, tasted different, looked different, acted different. Maybe I am too. I don't know. I've been told that I'm better than I was, so at least I improved and didn't, you know, go backwards. Even though my hair is not following that same, actually it's just my facial hair, but my salt and pepper hair up here is just sexy as hell, so not bothering me at all. And apparently girls like my gray beard. I don't, just, maybe I like girls with daddy issues, I'm not sure. But in any case, it works for me, so I happen to like, you know, 25-year-olds or 20-year-olds. I think they're fun. And I love the way they look at me like, that's amazing. Like, I think that's admirable.